Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. As always, I'm Amber Duke, joined by Nomiki Konst. Nomiki, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning from across the hall with a split screen. You've got the Capitol view. I've got the monitor view.
Yeah, I guess we know who is the golden child today.
Well, you are more DC than I am, okay?
Oh, man. It's good to see you, though. We're going to make it work, and we're going to get right into the news. Former President Trump roasted Vice President Kamala Harris and other Democrats in a speech at the annual Al Smith charity dinner in New York. This is a traditional white tie dinner that usually features both presidential candidates and raises money for Catholic charities. This year, in an unusual move, Vice President Harris skipped the event. Let's watch what was said.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
Trump also decided to make fun of the White Dudes for Harris group. Let's watch.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
Vice President Harris didn't attend the event, but she did pre-record a video that played on screen. Here's a look.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus. And maybe don't say anything negative about Catholics.
I would never do that, no matter where I was. That would be like criticizing Detroit in Detroit.
Does it bother you that Trump guy insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important to always remember you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Good for you, Mary Catherine.
Oh, yeah, okay. And also remember one more thing. Don't worry if you make a mistake, because Catholic people are very forgiving. Yeah, and also one last thing I want to tell you, don't forget to say, superstar!
Harris was clearly uncomfortable with how well Trump's speech went, if her response was any guide, because this was the response that her campaign sent out shortly after. It read in part, quote, Donald Trump struggled to read scripted notes written by his handlers, repeatedly complaining that he couldn't use a teleprompter. He stumbled over his words and lashed out when the crowd wouldn't laugh with him. The rare moments he was off script, he went on long, incomprehensible rambles. Reminder to Americans how unstable he's become. And in a shocking twist, CNN's Brian Stelter actually had some kind words for Trump. Let's watch.
Brian Stelter, what did you make of this performance?
Oh, no, don't ask me first. I thought he was funny. I thought he actually got a few great jokes in. I thought the best moment was we talked about the assassination attempts and made light of what he's experienced, because I think he's experiencing real trauma, real PTSD as a result of the shootings, but he's still able to have a light moment in this room. And he took advantage of the fact that Kamala Harris wasn't there.
Which is really the subtext
that he
of this
kept,
whole thing.
Exactly. That she
They're
didn't
usually
attend.
supposed to be in the same room.
Meanwhile, Trump shared some insight on the making of his speech this morning on Fox and Friends. Take a listen.
Your material was real funny. Who wrote it? Who helped you with it?
Well, I've had a lot of people helping. A couple of people from Fox, actually. I shouldn't say that, but they wrote some jokes. And for the most part, I didn't like any of them. But I got
Wow, he said the quiet part out loud. Brian Stelter, who had just praised him, later came out after Trump said that on Fox and Friends, criticizing it, because clearly we all talk about Fox being an extension of the Republican Party, except people on payroll of Fox, who I'm guessing are not contractors, are assisting in the writing of his jokes. I mean, we all know that Donald Trump didn't write those jokes. And even when he has handed his script, if you really watch the whole Al Smith dinner, it is long and rambly, and I don't even know how the folks could. There were boos in the audience at some of the attacks he made. So I don't know if Kamala missed out on this dinner at all. It's not a good look to be hanging out with a bunch of elites in New York in a in fancy tuxes 2.5 weeks before the election.
Well, it is a charity dinner for Catholic charities. It's not just a bunch of elites hanging out for the sake of hanging out. They are raising money for a very good cause. And this is a tradition that goes back a long ways. The last presidential candidate who opted not to attend the Al Smith dinner was Walter Mondale. We saw how well that worked out for him. He only won one state. And I don't think Trump's speech was long or rambling at all. It was like 25 minutes long. I watched the whole thing this morning. I thought he got some good laughs, and it's pretty standard that you don't win over the whole audience. It is usually a politically split audience, so pretty much everybody gets booed. Obama got booed, Trump got booed his last time around. That's pretty standard. The idea is that this is supposed to be an opportunity for both parties to poke fun at one another, laugh at themselves, and unfortunately Kamala Harris deciding not to go is a real problem for her with Catholic voters who did go for Trump in 2016, but there were quite a few who opted not to vote for him in 2020. This could have been an opportunity for her to win some of those people over, and especially in the Midwest and in Pennsylvania, Catholic working class voters exercise a lot of power. They're a pretty significant voting bloc, and she has to prove to them that she is worthy of their trust, and she didn't do that by skipping the dinner.
So as a New Yorker, I can tell you that the majority of people who do go to that event are New York politicians and New York media, and it is a very elitist event that is held in Midtown Manhattan at an extremely expensive hotel. And yeah, it's a charity, but you got to pay for those, or the media companies mostly, or the political offices will pay those donations to the Catholic charity. It's not like a working class event, and it's not like working class Catholics are watching this. They usually don't even release the whole video. The fact that it's finally they release the speeches, it's not like the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Of course she has to reach those voters, which is why she is in the Rust Belt today and yesterday. It's why she pre-taped that, because what's more important to her right now is speaking to voters on the ground so she wins this election rather than, hobnobbing with politicians she already knows and media people she already knows. It's also why her strategy has been to also speak through podcasts, to speak directly to voters, to go into independent media and talk to folks that may not be tuning into mainstream media anymore or may not tune in all the time. So she really has to broaden her reach right now in this final stretch of the campaign, and I think it was smart. She showed respect. She sent in a video. People have done that before in other instances with the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Let's not forget, everything changed a few years ago with the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Folks stopped going. Presidents stopped going, including Donald Trump. But that wasn't during an election season, and it wasn't 2 weeks before when the polls are this close. So I actually think he took a risk going.
I think it could have been nothing but upside for Kamala Harris. As Jim Gaffigan, the comedian who hosted the event, said, it was a mostly liberal audience filled with a lot of her friends, including those politicians you mentioned. All she had to do was get a couple of laughs and people would have viewed it as a great success. And she didn't even indicate that she was going to send in that pre-recorded video until a couple of days before the event. She was planning on skipping it entirely until she did get backlash from the Catholic community, because although this event is for elite people who can afford the tables, you're right about that. The difference is that it sends a signal to Catholics who care about this dinner and view it as a fun annual event that she didn't care enough to even show up. And you compare that to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the people who benefit from that are the media, who are part of the elite structure of American culture. I think people are going to be a lot more angry and concerned about the fact that she skipped the Catholic event than Trump was for skipping the media event.
I think she's been giving rallies, and I think anybody in politics knows you have to make choices. So if she's going to have 50,000 people show up at a rally in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, that's definitely worth it. But let me tell you, if she showed up, you guys would have been criticizing her for showing up and not being on the campaign trail, and he probably wouldn't have shown up. He probably wouldn't have shown up.
I don't think that's true at all. I haven't heard anyone suggest that she would have been taking too much time from the campaign trail to show up to this dinner. It is a tradition, again, in American politics that the presidential candidates both go, and I think it was a huge mistake for her not to. We're obviously going to have to agree to disagree on that, but we have a lot more topics to talk about on Rising. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this.